The little girls cried out loudly as their mother dropped them on the bed and angrily stuffed her clothes into a bag. Her face was tight, full of bitterness, like someone ready to fight the whole world. This is the circle of African tales, where African wisdom lives, and every story has a lesson. Mr. David, her husband, spoke softly, trying to calm the storm. The babies are crying, they need their mother. But Martha's reply was sharp and cold. They are no longer my problem. I'm leaving you. She didn't even pause, just kept packing her clothes. Please don't go, David pleaded. If not for me, then stay for the sake of these innocent children God blessed us with. Martha spun around and snapped. I didn't marry you to suffer. Since you can't give me the life I want, I'm done. Don't look for me. As for the babies, do whatever you want with them. I don't care. Then with a bitter twist of her lips she added the cruelest words yet. To be honest, I don't even care if they live or die. She zipped up her bag and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Once upon a time, peace had filled David's home, but everything changed when he lost his job. From then on, Martha only complained about the small room they moved into, the plain food they ate, and the struggles that came with their new life. David begged her over and over, not just because he loved her, but because of their little daughters Deborah and Hannah, barely 3 months old. But Martha's heart was already gone. David picked up the crying babies and cradled them gently. Though their cries pierced the air, he rocked them until they calmed. Looking into their innocent faces, his heart grew heavy. Yet he spoke with firm resolve, whispering, I may not have money to give you the best life, but I promise to be the best father in the world. The girls slowly drifted off to sleep in his arms, but when morning came, reality returned. Hunger, worry, and 2 babies who needed food. David had no job, no money, and no food. Still, there was no time to sit and feel sorry for himself. He strapped the twins to his chest, hired a wheelbarrow, and headed to the market to find work. He began pushing heavy bags for people. Some looked at him with pity, some with admiration. A few even gave him small coins for the babies. One elderly woman, moved by compassion, stopped and said softly, You're doing well. She pressed 500 naira into his hand. This is for the babies. David bowed his head in thanks, and kept going. Not everyone was kind though. A loud woman sneered and shouted, Enjoyment master. When you were busy enjoying in bed, you didn't think of responsibility. Now see yourself. Suffer alone. Her words cut deep, but David ignored her. He didn't care what people thought. His only concern was keeping his little girls safe. After a long day of hard labor, he finally went home, tired, sweaty, and sore, but happy. He had made enough to feed his children. That evening he went to a pharmacy, explained his situation, and asked for help. The pharmacist, moved by his story, gave him a list: powdered milk and baby medicines. David paid, grateful that at least tonight, his daughters wouldn't go to bed hungry. Day after day he kept pushing loads in the market, the twins tied to his chest. He had no one else to lean on. His mother had passed, and he had no sisters. Life was exhausting, but David never complained. In fact, joy filled his heart, because every day he saw his babies alive, fed and growing. One Monday morning, as he prepared for another day, a voice called out. It was Mama Dorcas, their elderly neighbor. She walked over and said kindly, Let me watch the babies today. I'll care for them until you return. David hesitated, but she added softly, The sun is too hot for these little ones. Don't worry, I'll treat them as my own. Trusting her, he handed the twins over. Though relieved, his heart stayed uneasy. Since their mother left, those girls had become his world. He would die to protect them. Mama Dorcas, as everyone called her, was poor but full of kindness. She bathed them, fed them, and cared for them as if they were her own. When David returned, he found his daughters giggling happily in her arms. His heart melted with gratitude. From that day, Mama Dorcas became his helper, caring for the girls while he worked with his wheelbarrow. The twins grew up knowing only 2 people they could truly call family, their father, and Mama Dorcas, the kind woman they lovingly called Mama. Deborah and Hannah didn't wear fancy uniforms or attend expensive private schools, but their father made sure they never lacked the basics. He worked hard to pay their fees, bought their books, and most importantly, taught them to be kind, respectful, and hard-working. By the time they turned 18, the twins finished secondary school. Their father's chest swelled with pride. They studied day and night, preparing for their WAEC and JAM. When the results came, Deborah scored 325, and Hannah even higher, 341. Both gained admission into the same university to study medicine and surgery. That was when life's biggest test began. One afternoon, the girls ran into the house laughing, full of excitement. They rushed to their father and handed him their result slips. David's eyes lit up as he hugged them. "Ah, my daughters, you've done me proud. Now I can walk around this city with my shoulders high. My daughters are going to be doctors." He puffed out his chest, strutting like a big man, and they all burst out laughing. The house was filled with joy, but later that night, David sat alone in his room. The smile had vanished. He stared at the floor, heavy-hearted. Not even enough money to sponsor one of them. Completely broke. He whispered to himself, "So many years of hard work, and now that my girls have made it, I can't pay their fees." His chest tightened, but then he clenched his fists and muttered, "No, I won't let money stop them. I'll do whatever it takes. My daughters must become doctors." The next morning, long before the twins woke up, David left home, but not with his wheelbarrow. Deep down, he knew this battle was bigger than that. He walked to the home of a rich man in the neighborhood. The man came out in his pajamas, eyes narrowed. "What business brings you here this early?" David dropped to his knees. "Please, sir, take me as your houseboy. I'll wash your clothes, cook your meals, sweep your compound. Just help me send my daughters to school. I'll serve you like a slave until they graduate." His voice broke as he explained how Deborah and Hannah were his only joy, the only treasure left in his world. The man shook his head coldly. "Training 2 students in medicine, that's no small matter. I won't do it." David stood quietly and walked away. But he didn't stop there. He went to 5 more wealthy homes. Each time he knelt, begged, pleaded. Each time, the answer was the same, no. By the end of the day, tired and broken, he returned home empty-handed. For the next 2 days, David came back from work unusually quiet. His daughters noticed. His heart was heavy. He couldn't bring himself to tell them their dream might slip away. But one evening, he gathered courage, called them into his room, and said softly, "My daughters, forgive me. I made a promise long ago that I would send you anywhere in the world to study, but now, I don't even have enough to send you to university." His voice cracked, and he turned away to hide the tears. Hannah stood and spoke gently. "Daddy, there's nothing to forgive. We know how much you love us. If you had the money, you would have sent us even to the moon." Deborah added quickly, "University or not, we'll always love you." Then the girls wrapped their arms around him, holding him tight. That night, when the twins were in bed, David knelt quietly by his own bed. His shoulders shook as he cried, "God, please help me. I have nothing but you have everything. My girls deserve this chance. Please, Lord, help me send them to school." His voice cracked with pain. He wept bitterly, hands pounding the floor. Deborah and Hannah were awake. They heard everything. It tore their hearts apart. All their lives, their father had been strong, their rock, their shield, but tonight, he was broken, crying because of them. They buried their faces in their pillows, and cried silently. In the days that followed, the house grew quiet but calm. Though their hearts were heavy, the twins stayed strong. Then they made a brave decision. They went to the university and deferred their admission. It hurt deeply, but they had a plan. They would work, save money, and help their father by next year. So together they set out to find jobs. After many rejections, they finally found work in a clean, decent restaurant. Deborah and Hannah started right away. They greeted customers with smiles, served food politely, and treated everyone with respect. Customers noticed. Many liked them and gave generous tips. Some men tried to take advantage of their poverty, but the twins never gave in. They held on to their dignity and refused to sell themselves short. Every coin they earned, they saved. At night, they would sit with their father, count the little money they had and then pray together. Mr. David never stopped praying for them. Each day he knelt and asked God to bless the work of their hands. After 7 long months of saving, praying and working tirelessly, Deborah and Hannah finally opened a small restaurant. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was spotless, well arranged and filled with the aroma of their delicious cooking. They treated every customer like family, and soon word spread. They even used social media to promote it, and before long the little restaurant began to fill with people. Deborah and Hannah were finally seeing the fruit of their labor. Still, they didn't forget their bigger dream of becoming doctors. They saved every bit they could, but life had a way of writing its own script. One evening, after a tiring day, Deborah was wiping down tables when she spotted a black briefcase under one of the chairs. "Hannah, look," she said, lifting it carefully. Somebody must have left this behind. Curious, they slowly opened it and froze. Inside were official-looking documents and a thick stack of American dollars. Hannah's eyes widened. This person must be very rich. They quickly closed it and carried it home. When Mr. David saw it, he listened quietly, then nodded. "You did the right thing bringing it back. Don't worry, the owner will surely come looking for it. A bag like this is too important to just lose." The next morning they went to the restaurant early with the briefcase. As they arrived, they saw a well-dressed man standing by a shiny black car looking restless. When they greeted him, he asked immediately, "Did either of you see a black briefcase?" "Yes," Deborah answered, pulling it from their sack. She handed it over. The man's face lit up with relief. "Thank you so much," he said, grabbed the briefcase, got into his car, and drove away without another word. Hannah blinked, half joking. "At least he could have given us one of those dollars." Deborah laughed. "So you're chasing dollars now, I'll start calling you Lady Dollars." They both laughed and went inside to start another day of work. The restaurant still wasn't big enough to hire staff, so it was just the two of them, but they stayed hopeful. Around noon, when the sun was high and the streets buzzing, the same man returned. This time he wasn't in a rush. He stepped out of his car with a smile. "I'm Prince Tony," he introduced himself. "For your honesty and faithfulness, I want to reward you." Deborah and Hannah glanced at each other, expecting maybe some cash. But instead he led them to a tall, beautiful building. "This is for you," he said. "The documents in that briefcase were worth more than the money. You saved my family by returning it. Now I want you to have this place for your restaurant. It's yours." The sisters stood frozen in shock. Could this really be happening? Grateful tears filled their eyes as they thanked him over and over. They rushed to find their father at the market. He was standing by his wheelbarrow, sipping a cool cup of kunu. Without a word, they ran into his arms. People stopped to stare, surprised at the sight of two beautiful young women clinging to a poor man in joy. Mr. David chuckled, shaking his head. "Sit down," he said warmly. "Let me buy you some kunu." They sat, still glowing with excitement. Finally, Hannah couldn't hold it in. "Daddy, we have a surprise for you." "What is it?" he asked, smiling as curiosity danced in his eyes. They stood and motioned for him to follow. When they reached the building, Hannah's voice rang out. "It's ours, Daddy. The man who lost the briefcase gave it to us. He wants us to open our restaurant here." Tears welled up in Mr. David's eyes. His daughter's honesty had brought them a new beginning. It felt like a dream. Together, they celebrated, laughter and joy echoing in the air. That evening, back at home, Deborah and Hannah sat with their father. They looked at him, noticing the wear on his face, the toll of years of hard labor. Deborah spoke softly. "Dad, it's time to stop pushing the wheelbarrow. You're not young anymore. That kind of work is too hard for you." Hannah nodded. "We've got this now, Daddy. You've given us everything we need. Now it's your turn to rest." Mr. David opened his mouth as if to argue, but when he looked into his daughter's eyes, he saw determination. They weren't the little girls who once depended on him. They were strong now, standing tall, and his heart swelled with pride. Quietly, with tears pressing at the corners of his eyes, he agreed to stop the hard labor that had worn him down for years. Prince Tony didn't just give them a building, he made sure it was ready for success. New chairs, shiny tables, clean plates, strong pots, everything was set. All Deborah and Hannah had to do was bring their heart and their cooking, and that they did. The restaurant soon came alive. It was warm, beautiful, and filled with laughter. The food was delicious, and their kindness kept people coming back. It was more than a restaurant now. It was a story of hope, a dream rising out of poverty. Most of all, they made sure their father finally rested. No more sweating under the sun with heavy loads. His rough, tired hands no longer pushed a wheelbarrow. Instead, he sat in peace, eating food his daughters provided, knowing all his sacrifices had led to this. But Deborah and Hannah didn't stop there. They remembered Mama Dorcas, the woman who cared for them when they were little. She was old now, and often sick, but they never forgot her. They fixed her house, made it comfortable, and paid her hospital bills. Every month they sent her money. To them, gratitude was not an option. It was a duty. One afternoon, a weary woman walked into the restaurant. Her clothes were worn, her face tired. "What do you want?" one of the ladies asked gently. The woman looked up with pleading eyes. "I'm looking for a job. Please, I can do anything. Wash plates, mop floors, serve food. Just give me a chance." The restaurant didn't really need another worker, but Deborah and Hannah felt something strange in their hearts. They couldn't explain it, so they gave her a job washing dishes. They didn't know then that this woman was Martha, their mother. After failed marriages to rich men, she had been left with nothing. Life had stripped her down to nothing, and this time she had nowhere to run. The next day Mr. David visited his daughters. After greeting them, he wandered into the kitchen and froze. There she was, Martha. She hadn't seen him yet, but he quickly turned away, his heart heavy. He called his daughters and spoke slowly. "Do you have a new dishwasher?" "Yes, Daddy," Deborah replied. "Do you know her?" he asked. "No," they said, puzzled. "Why are you asking, Mr.?" David swallowed hard. "That woman is Martha, your mother." Hannah's eyes widened. "What, our mother?" "Yes," he said softly. "She left us long ago. I burned every picture of her. I couldn't bear the memories. That's why you never knew her face." Together they walked into the kitchen. When Martha looked up and saw Mr. David, her face went pale. She froze, trembling. Mr. David's voice was calm but heavy with pain. "The women who gave you this job, they are your daughters." Martha's lips quivered. Tears filled her eyes. "I am so sorry. My daughters, I am so sorry," she whispered, bowing her head in shame. Deborah's heart burned. Her face tightened, her voice sharp. "You need to leave." She grabbed a bundle of cash and thrust it into Martha's hand. "Take this, it's more than you've earned. Go. I don't know you, and you're not my mother. My mother is Mama Dorcas, the one who stayed, not you." Her voice cracked, but her anger poured out like fire. Hannah stepped in quickly, hugging her sister. "I know you're hurting, Deborah. I am too," she said softly, her voice steady. "But don't send her away, not like this. She needs us." Deborah's tears broke free. "I don't want to help her," she cried. Pointing at Martha, she sobbed. "This woman left us. She chose her own way. She left us and our father to suffer. She left us to die." Her cries filled the room, raw and sharp, and as the storm of grief poured out of her heart, her body slowly weakened. Her sobs softened, her breath slowed, the fire inside began to settle. The heavy grief in the room slowly lifted. Martha stretched out her trembling hands toward her daughters, her voice breaking with regret. "I'm sorry, my daughters. Please forgive me. I was young, foolish, and selfish. Please forgive me." That evening Mr. David sat with his girls. His face was lined with sadness, and the silence in the room was almost too much to bear. The conversation that followed wasn't easy. The pain was deep, but in the end Deborah and Hannah's hearts softened. They chose to forgive their mother, though it hurt to do so. The next day the twins gave Martha a better role in the restaurant. They couldn't stand seeing her still scrubbing dishes. Instead she became the matron, overseeing daily work and showing leadership. At first she fit in well, the staff respected her, and even the customers seemed to like her gentle side. But as weeks passed, things shifted. Martha's kindness began to fade. Her temper grew sharp. She barked at workers, scolded them for the smallest mistakes, and the restaurant slowly lost its joy. Staff began to fear her, customers started to notice, and the warm spirit that once filled the place turned cold. Deborah and Hannah could feel it. Their business was slipping. One night, they sat their mother down, their faces heavy with worry. "Mother," they pleaded, "your behavior is hurting the restaurant." But Martha crossed her arms and glared. "I am your mother. I brought you into this world. You cannot tell me what to do." Deborah swallowed hard, fighting to stay calm. "You are here to help us, but your attitude is destroying everything we've built." Martha's eyes narrowed. "What about your father, that lazy man sitting at home while you give him everything, and me? All I get is a salary." Deborah's face hardened. Her voice came firm, almost shaking. "Don't you ever speak badly about my father again." But Martha shot back bitterly. "You don't love me. You're just tolerating me." The argument spiraled, voices raised, words cutting deep. Finally, exhausted, Deborah and Hannah went to their father. He listened quietly, his face calm but his eyes heavy with wisdom. Then he said softly, "She is still your mother, but if you let her stay, she will destroy everything you've worked for." The next day, the twins made the hard choice. They told Martha she could no longer work at the restaurant. Her reaction was explosive. "I know it's your useless father who turned you against me," she screamed before storming out. The words hurt, but the girls stood firm. And though their hearts were broken, they didn't abandon her. They set up a small shop for her near her home so she could manage herself. It wasn't much, but it was a chance. Mr. David, despite everything, still carried a longing for peace. Part of him wished Martha could come back as his wife, but her behavior had cut too deep, and he knew he had to let go. With Martha gone, the restaurant breathed again. Joy returned, customers flooded back, and business blossomed. The girls opened new branches across cities in Nigeria. Their dream had grown bigger than they ever imagined. But it wasn't just about money anymore, it was peace. Their father was happy, finally free from heartache, and their restaurant became a symbol of their success and God's faithfulness. One day, Deborah and Hannah sat together and spoke of their old dream. Hannah sighed gently. "The fire to be a doctor is no longer in me. I love this business." She looked around the busy restaurant and smiled with pride. Deborah nodded, her eyes bright. "This is God's answer to our father's prayers. I don't want to be a doctor either. This is my calling." And so the dream of medicine faded, replaced by a deeper purpose. Their business was no longer just work, it was their way to bless others. As time passed, suitors began to come. Deborah and Hannah decided to marry, both on the same day. But their hearts worried for their father. He was still alone, so one afternoon, they sat with him. Deborah spoke first, her voice gentle. "Father, we're happy to marry, but it troubles us that you're still alone. Not every woman is like our mother. There are still good women." Hannah added softly, "Daddy, we've found someone kind. She works in one of our restaurants. She advises us, helps us, and her heart is pure. Her husband passed away, and she has 2 children. If you marry her, her kids will be like our siblings. We'll make sure they get a good education." Mr. David was silent, surprised. His daughters waited nervously. Finally, he said, "I need time." 2 days later, he met Madame Abigail. She was gentle, kind, and sincere, and for the first time in years, peace filled his heart. He agreed. Their weddings were set for the same day. That morning, the church was overflowing with joy. Deborah, Hannah, and their father all stood at the altar, ready for new beginnings. Mama Dorcas, the woman who had been a true mother, stood proudly as the chief mother of the day. It was a day of love, healing, and fresh starts. A day of answered prayers. Thanks for watching, and God bless.